Alright, about a couple months ago, I bought a MacBook Pro with the M1 Pro chip just to see if it will get me what was left to be desired out of my XPS laptop. And while yes it did, it's a bit more complicated than that. To start, the specific XPS that I was using was the 9500. It has a i5-10-750H, 32 gigs of RAM, and 2 terabytes of M.2 storage with a 4K touchscreen display. Which I left behind for was a MacBook Pro 14-inch. It has of course the M1 Pro chip, 500 gigs of storage, and 32 gigs of unified memory. I opted for 32 gigs of unified memory since I like to have a lot of windows on standby, and I just figured I'll future-proof it a bit more. While yes, the storage is less than my XPS, I really don't use a lot of storage unless I'm working with large media files, or which I kind of now have on external drives. To start, the exterior on both these machines are great, with both having CNC aluminum bodies. They really feel premium to the touch. Both of them are small but dense with what they're packing, which gives a little nice heft when you're carrying them in the hand. This is especially true for the XPS since in about the same footprint of the MacBook, it weighs an extra 2 pounds, which you can definitely feel that extra heft when you're carrying it. Same thing for the interiors for both of these machines. They're just top notch. They're really nice just to look at with their minimal design. While I do prefer the resin feel of the XPS, I found myself choosing the Mac since when I'm working on heavy loads, the XPS kind of makes my palms sweat a bit more, which obviously is not an issue on my Mac here, but it's not an issue you can't get used to. Now for the trackpads, I found myself liking the Mac more. It just feels better at tracking my finger movement, and the haptic feedback is nice when clicking. The XPS is good, but it feels like it lags. It also doesn't help when working on slightly non-flat surfaces. The trackpad can feel a bit mushy. For the keyboards, I really like both, but you can't go wrong with either of them. The Dell has a bit more of a soft and smooth key press, while the Mac feels more tactile and audible thumbs. I did find myself consistently typing faster on the Dell if speed is a concern, but I personally would go with the MacBook here. However, for the displays, I still can't decide which one is better. On the Mac, it has a max 120 refresh rate, which makes swifting between tabs feel buttery smooth. And coming from the Dell's gorgeous 16:10 Infinity Edge display, the notch was slightly off-putting, but I got used to it. As for the colors, both are the best of the best, but I did find myself preferring the Dell's colors a bit more. Then for ports, the Mac just wins hands down. Having 3 Gen 4 Thunderbolt ports on both sides is a nice little touch. All that while having a room for a dedicated charging port, headphone jack, full-size SD card slot, and an HDMI port. No need for a dongle unless you're looking for USB-A connectivity. For the Dell, while good on paper, left me disappointed for the external display connections. The Thunderbolt port seems to support DisplayPort 1.4, but only went up to 1.2 due to the laptop using the iGPU of the CPU, not the GPU. This didn't allow me to take advantage of my ultra-wide monitor up to that full maximum refresh rate. This of course wasn't a problem on my MacBook. But overlooking that issue, the I/O is good, and the dongle that comes with the Dell XPS is a nice little have since it does have HDMI and USB-A. Now for the webcams, both are usable, and I did find the Mac to have a bit of a more natural, consistent look. There is some obvious softening happening on both laptops. The Dell, on the other hand, is lower res and sometimes kind of gives skin tones a bit of a warmer tone. And then for the microphone, I found it just to be a bit tad worse than the MacBook, but it really just depends on the scenario. Unsurprisingly, the Mac does have better speakers with a fuller sound, but aren't as loud as the Dell. But honestly, I will make that trade-off. That doesn't mean the Dell speakers are bad, but about 75% or so, the sound is clear with decent bass. But once you go past that, the sound begins to degrade a bit. Then for a mode that doesn't get much attention is the sleep mode between these two devices. The Mac literally has been an ass-saver when needing to use it in pinch situations or just trying to get a little bit of information right before a midterm or something like that. The best part, it barely drains the battery and is more consistent than any other Windows laptop there is at the moment. The Dell is able to do the same, but it's not as consistent with keeping the battery alive and or crashes, which kind of needs to reboot the entirety of the system, which also kind of defeats the purpose of it trying to be convenient. Now for battery life, again, the Mac wins with this new generation of Macs using the ARM architecture. Battery life got a huge uplift due to efficiency gains. I usually get about 6 to 12 hours, just depending how hard I'm pushing my Mac that day. While the Dell at best can get 5 hours per charge, I on average get about 3 hours and a half before needing a wall plug. This is partially due to my 4K display that I do have optioned with it, but still, it's usable but not desirable. My overall experience with these two machines have been great, though sometimes with the Dell, I wouldn't choose a table that wasn't near an outlet if I was trying to lock in for a bit. With the Mac, I can just literally choose any table, plop down, and not focus on being wall thirsty all the time. There is a lot more peace of mind with the Mac, whether it's not dying in sleep mode or just being able to choose anywhere to work without being battery conscious all the time. For the developer side of things, those main benefits really transfer well over. I feel like developers mostly just benefit from the extra battery life, being able to work anywhere long enough without needing a wall outlet. The Dell still gives the most bang for the buck for anyone on a budget wanting something premium. It still gets the job done for a way lower price, which arguably is the most important factor for most people. However, for content creation, I feel like your dollar is well spent since it goes a longer way. Benefits like having AirDrop to share media from your iPhone to your Mac is super convenient, and having a almost stutterless experience panning timelines is dope on a laptop. My Dell is always stuttering or it just takes longer to load anything in general. That's even when it's plugged in, but once things are loaded, it's manageable. So yeah, the Mac is definitely the way. So to wrap things up, the Mac is truly the most portable machine without really sacrificing performance. Though with the high starting price for these machines, it doesn't really make sense kind of for everyone. But if you have money to spare, well, it's kind of a no-brainer. But for those that are more budget oriented, I would say the Dell is the more obvious choice here. It gives you way more compute for the least amount of money. But yeah, let me know if y'all have any questions in the comments and subscribe for future videos like this. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next one.